This is cool. It's almost IPA time.
Yep.
That's exciting.
Very
We've got
exciting. Also too excited, maybe.
we're excited. I mean, I saw Adrienne in Colorado, feels like a week ago or something. It's been nonstop conference season. Andrew's tired, Adrienne's tired, we're tired. So this is gonna be fun. We're gonna have a great time. And we've got, just as housekeeping, we have an AMA with our media team, and they've been drinking all day. So come bring it. They actually haven't. They're not as fun as we are. So come bring your questions. I believe that starts at 4. Yep. So that starts at 4. Right now we've got Ruchi going and speed networking. So I hope you guys are having as much fun as we are scaling up. I'm so humbled. We doubled registrants and sold this thing out. We've been kicking agency people out all day. I know I set a ridiculous goal. You were ticked off at me, and we did it.
We did it. I didn't think we could, but it's good to have a leader who pushes us to try new things and take us to the next level, which is what we're going to be doing.
Stop it. Go on. This is going to be a blast, guys. We've got 2 of the sharpest marketers I've ever met, and we're going to be talking about everything that it takes to acquire patient with having the right message at the right time, with the right value pop and the right creative tracked in the right way. I won't introduce them for them. I'd love for them to do that. So let's get going. Adrienne, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, everybody. My name is Adrienne Woods. I'm the Director of Digital Engagement at Hackensack Meridian Health. So I have a wonderful team of 13 total, and we sit in the digital engagement strategy world at Hackensack, and we are responsible for the websites, the provider directory, online scheduling, mobile apps, and basically all of those digital channels where we interact with our patients.
Yeah, so critical. Team of 13 dealing with patient experience. That's awesome. Hackensack takes it very seriously. I love it. Mr. Henderson, tell them what town you live in.
Yeah, Andrew Henderson out of Nashville, Tennessee with HCA Healthcare. I'm the AVP of Media Performance sitting within our marketing services organization. So we support 15 divisions across 20 states in really honing in on good media performance, media investment. That's both with our agency of record and direct publisher relationships. So happy to be here.
Largest health system in the world, right?
I don't know if we can claim that yet, but I know we are one of the largest providers of healthcare in the United States.
Yeah, well, Americans, we think we're the biggest of everything.
That's right.
So if you're the biggest in America, you're
the biggest, yeah.
You're biggest.
Our egos are a little.
Nashville, I love Nashville. My brother lives there. I'm going to do my 40th there.
Oh, is that the plan?
Yeah, I'm going to do my 40th. So I'll be with all the bachelorettes, I guess, on Broadway. I mean, with, not with them, whatever. All right, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
By the way, guys, Ashley, you've seen her around. She is the master of all ceremonies. She has organized all scaling up with her team, Carly and Emily. So big round of virtual applause. This whole thing has been put on by her. She is ready for a break and excited to dive in. This is what you care about most.
Yeah, this is
patient experience.
Patient experience, patient journey. This is my passion. So I'm really excited for this conversation. And we're going to approach it in a few different ways. So we're going to look first at the marketing tech stack and what is actually needed to deliver the kind of patient journey that modern consumers want. And then we're going to look about how you're leveraging data to refine that journey. And then finally, kind of talking about the patient experience and how do you deepen that brand engagement. So that's what we're going to kind of cover throughout here. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to try to answer them at the end. But if you don't make it there, you can head to the AMA right after this. So let's kick this off with the marketing tech stack piece and think about what are the tools and technologies that you really feel are absolutely essential and critical for delivering this kind of next gen patient experience. Andrew, we can start with you.
Yeah, I mean, a bit of a loaded question, right? Because the landscape as it pertains to technology is just ever evolving. I think, we always joke that healthcare is 10 years behind other industries. And so with the rate that technology is advancing, it's definitely hard to stay up to speed, especially when you've got additional hurdles to clear with privacy, risk, compliance, legal, things like that. But without sounding too cliche, obviously robust, marketing automation, the ability to leverage and understand audience insights, patient insights. We use a lot of market research to round that out, just understanding who our consumers are, what they're looking for out of a health system, how they define us today, and that gives us the ability to identify then gaps. I mean, really any technology that's going to ultimately understand or enable you to understand how patients want to receive marketing, right? It's a big aspect of the patient journey. And so it's extremely important to adhere to the communication preferences that our patients have, whether that's text, email, direct mail, mobile app, all of that falls within the tech stack space. And then I think most paramount is that interoperability, right? The ability to move information fluidly across those systems, that you're tracking activity across those systems. I could go on and on. I spent a lot of time in the tech space specifically before shifting back over to the media world. And so maybe we'll save the media tech rabbit hole for another day, but
you're starting with a lot of research, you said, first to kind of understand what are the preferences. Can you maybe speak a little bit more on that, and where are you going? Is this all first research that you're conducting yourself? How are you leveraging and figuring out the different markets across the US how do the preferences evolve and change?
Yeah, absolutely. In our current state, we are leveraging third parties to kind of better understand consumer preference, behavior, psychographics, demographics, things like that. In a perfect world, looking at integrations across Nielsen, Live, Ramp, other kind of data aggregators, right, to build out those personas, or maybe validate what you're learning in the research space, right? So as you start to survey those consumers, oftentimes you have to be a little bit prescriptive in who you want to survey and who you want to understand. But then going back and validating, are we actually reaching the right people? Are we actually reaching the ones that are making the decisions? Or how does that vary by service line? And so, like most, we are working actively with third parties to enhance our current kind of research and consumer insight stack, while also looking at capabilities that are directly embedded into our MarTech and media tech space to say, do we have the right message? Are we delivering at the right time? One of the things that I push on heavily is, as the media space has evolved, pushing for, CTV is a huge space. Video is huge in today's world. And oftentimes we're limited just to say, okay, well, we've delivered these impressions. We leveraged this creative. This was the result. But really starting to push back on those publishers and saying, well, what programming did our ads serve on, right? And the idea there is you start to understand the actual tangible consumption behaviors of who it is that you're aiming to speak to, right? What are they watching for? How long? How frequently? Are there days where they're more heavily engaged? And so really, we're not there yet, but really pushing on those publishers and using kind of that buying power and that weight to say, look, we've got a sizable investment. We need to know more about who is engaging with our media and who isn't, so we get a better understanding of what that might imply or inform about where they're at in the journey and what might drive them to, broader healthcare decisions.
Adrienne, from your perspective, how are you kind of getting that foundational information and research to understand the technology stack that you need, the preferences of the Hackensack's consumers?
Yeah, very similar to what Andrew said. I think he said it very well in terms of we have to know our patients and we have to know how they want to interact with us and what their expectations are. So we do, he mentioned several of the groups that we look at, Nielsen Norman Group, things like that, of the research we get. We also do a big shout out to our consumer acquisition and insights team. We research our own patients, survey them often. We have groups that we know we can go back to, but then we do more general asks of the patient population. And I think that it's important to not only survey, but then make sure that everyone has that information. Like, we sometimes, I don't always think of like, hey, outside of marketing and outside of digital engagement, other folks our physicians need to know what the patients are saying, and they can't do these surveys. So giving them access to that information. One of the things that we found just recently very interesting, and we are changing some of our marketing around it, is that the patient we surveyed, I can't remember how many patients, but how do they want to hear from us as a health system? And they basically said, we want to hear from our physicians. Like we want that communication to come from our physicians. That's what we're listening to. That's who our relationship is with, not a building, not a hospital in general. And I thought that was very powerful. And we have relayed that and are continuing to relay that to our physicians as well. So, and I think that also, and Andrew said this as well, I think we do a great job, but always can do better in meeting our patients and communicating with them the way they want. If they want to call, they should be able to call. If they want only to text and never want to talk to us on the phone, we should be able to get that done for making an appointment, rescheduling, and canceling. And if they want everything in my chart and just don't want to have to repeat that 3 times for the person on the phone when they get to the office, that's our responsibility to help make that happen.
Definitely.
I know our crew loves rescheduling via text with their providers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. If you could do everything.
I'm a MyChart fan. I'm in MyChart all the time.
Our generation, you love MyChart.
Yeah.
I love that you can message the provider. But yeah, if you could do everything through text, Adrienne, I love that. It just, you want every modality possible, but if someone wants to call, call. I mean, there's callers,
Yeah.
I have the friends that are callers. I'm like, God, just text me. There's texters, there's online schedulers, there's MyCharters. Yeah, kudos to you to try to meet them where they're at. That's, I don't know why that's not as popular as it is. By the way, AV team, this is saying the battery is running low. Does this matter? Is this whole thing about to shut down? I'm just a little slightly concerned here.
There's a little panic like, oh man.
Yeah, like, we good? Okay, we're not sure, so we'll just keep going. Like the whole thing could get shut down, so Andrew, just take it away.
But I really, back to the what you said about sharing that information with the providers and stuff. Like if you're really trying to get their buy-in to make changes, to adopt new technology, to do things differently, like you have to share the research, share the data for them to trust marketing, to believe that this is something that they should do. You can't just say, go do this. This is what we say. They need that data to build that trust with you guys. So that's great. So let's dig into thinking about the tech stack a little bit more. I know the last couple of years have been all privacy concerns. It's kind of thrown everything up in the air. And I know you guys have both been your organization has been risk adverse and have reacted very quickly. Maybe you can speak a little bit, Andrew, about what you guys did to kind of ensure that you're still protecting patient privacy, but delivering on the experiences that consumers want.
Yeah, and great point, because obviously privacy is key, and protecting the information of our patients is paramount. I came into HCA Healthcare post kind of HHS bulletin, and quickly found the capabilities that I had leaving my prior organization and what we were stepping into. It was a bit of a shock, but to see the progressive response as a result, and yes, pulling down Google Analytics from all of our web properties, but then very quickly pursuing alternative action and building out capabilities in-house that would still enable us to understand what are consumers and patients doing on our website in a way that is compliant. It's completely owned by us, protected. Anybody who we work with is obviously required to sign a BAA. So we have aggressively moved, and over the last year, yes, there has been a bit of a blind spot, but in the interim, we shifted to making directional decisions. You may look top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, and you make some assumptions in the middle. We shifted from, everything that was really web focused from a user experience perspective, leveraging Google My Business and leveraging those local listings. We know, I mean, at the end of the day, that's how consumers tend to act anyways. And so getting more of that information and that action on the further up in the funnel so that they could still take action. We've got that communication back to the media tech to be able to optimize, whether it's max clicks or things like that. But by building those capabilities now in-house, we're actually starting to unlock greater capabilities than what we would have had just by continuing to leverage Google Analytics. And I think there was a lot of trepidation about this shift to GA4 and then the knowledge gap to get back up to speed with a new platform and new UI. And the reality is, we now have an in-house team that, as we start to look at one-to-one attribution, downstream ROI, ROAS, we actually are starting to uncover more capabilities than we had prior to, because we're taking, a more scrutinous look at how we house data, building out identity graphs in-house. And really now, I mean, it's essentially a matter of building out custom events, passing that information through to the appropriate places, QAing that, make sure we feel good about the data that's coming in and validating that before we ultimately scale that across the enterprise. So it slowed us down, but as they say, sometimes it's 2 steps back for 10 steps forward. And I think, it may not be this year, may not be next year, but I think at the end of the day, we're going to have, you know, we're going to close the gap and then exceed where we were as we look forward in terms of overall media intelligence, marketing performance, things like that.
You got to love hearing that, like, even with all of the issues that HIPAA compliance brought to us over the last few years, Andrew's one of many examples, like provider groups that accelerated, they learned new technology, they brought their data in-house, they learned new ways of advertising. And listening to Andrew, it's cool. You're okay with some of the ambiguity and looking at directional signals and sitting with the rest of the C-suite and saying, guys, like, marketing's still an art, overall appointment volumes are up, the providers are pretty busy, like, you're going to have to be okay missing some touch points into this multi-year evolution, and we are going to advance slowly, but we're going to get there. It is cool that the compliance helped us innovate.
Alex, I would add too, it forced us to really challenge the role that different tactics are playing at different parts of the patient journey. And, you know, I think oftentimes Google Analytics was a little bit of a safety net for us to go in. It was widely understandable, and everyone wants to look at, oh, well, what do the analytics say, and what are they doing on the site? And what it did is it forced us out of those patterns and looked at, okay, well, not only is our upper funnel media driving, you know, quality web traffic, but now that we don't have the lens into quality web traffic, let's look at the impact it's having a step further. And what we found was, you know, we've really got this strong narrative around the impact of that upper funnel brand awareness and more efficient and effective lower funnel campaigns, right? We saw CPMs go down. We saw, you know, cost per acquisition go down. We saw engagement go up. And so now we've got this different narrative around the relationship of brand media and lower funnel conversion activity.
Yes. Thank goodness that we're finally evolving to realizing all the upper funnel stuff actually does drive demand capture. It's awesome. I mean, we've been fighting this fight for a decade in healthcare. Yeah. Always slow.
But this kicked them in the butt, and people are making changes. And Adrienne, I think you had changed things quite a bit too at Hackensack to kind of navigate this, the new privacy regulations, correct?
When we quickly pivoted to a third party, we did keep our Google Analytics. We did engage with a third party very quickly, and not even with the change of the OCR, you know, they've changed back, and it's better for us, I would say, but we're staying with that integration just to be more conservative, as you said. It's important. It's our patient data. It's the most important thing that we have privacy of. We need to keep that private. So anything we do to help that, I think that we look at on a daily basis, just to ensure that that stays that way. And one of the things that has been great, similar to Andrew, everybody's, you know, we have BAAs in place with everyone, but, you know, ensuring that those partners also have BAAs with anyone else that they're partners with that somehow could have access to our information. So we're very particular about that, and to ensure, as you said, the patient privacy.
You know what no one does is make sure that the partners actually uphold their BAAs. I know lots of agencies that sign BAAs. I'm like, do you know what goes into it? And they're like, it'll be fine. I'm like, dude, it's scary. Yeah, kudos to you guys for forcing that. That's good.
Yeah. Hey, Adrienne, maybe you could speak a little bit about the meeting patients where they are, back to the tech piece, what you have done in the last 2 years, the journey to implement online booking, and how you're trying to help meet those more digital savvy consumers and get them that direct access. What does that kind of entail?
Sure, that's probably one of the biggest parts of my job currently is online scheduling, and we have been active on online scheduling for several years now. But one of the things that, you know, we've moved in a kind of intentional way by specialty, you know, doing groups of them at a time, keeping it streamlined so that it's easier to bring new physicians on, you know, to online scheduling at the same time, and making it easy for patients. So, you know, with a patient with online scheduling, we know that every question we ask online scheduling, they drop more. So the more questions you ask, the less people are going to make it through the funnel to actually make an appointment. So we work hard on that to make it, we do get the information. We don't want them to show up with, you know, for the wrong type of appointment, but we do want them to be able to make the appointment. So that's that's first and foremost in our mind. And if they call our access center, then they get a couple more questions. You have a couple more minutes to engage with that patient. So that's just one way that we meet patients where they are. And we're very quickly moving through not only primary care, but our urology is another big one that was very proactive in wanting to go on online scheduling. So that's another thing. If you have a group of physicians that are ready to go online scheduling, try to champion them, like make them champions of online scheduling, and have them go talk to their other partners about doing it. And then we also notice we went more ancillary services very quickly this past year, and that's been very successful for us. We launched with mammography. Now we do lab online scheduling as well. And at the same time as launching mammography, we did do some texting campaigns to promote online scheduling. So sending people a text if they hadn't had a mammogram in the past 3 years or something like that, and then giving them the URL to book online. So again, back to Alex's point, they still don't have to talk to us. They can get a text message from us, click a link, make their appointment, and then go.
I mean, no offense, but it's awesome. Everybody needs an Adrienne.
Definitely.
Yeah, someone that's fighting for us to
To
text.
have access and to get
Yes.
easy connection.
Yes.
I know I have a lingering request because but yeah, it's nice to have that direct connection to
Yes,
providers.
it's fighting for engagement.
And thinking about that, like, how are you have these past patients, and how are you trying to like measuring who's out there that you still need to connect with? I think this is something Andrew is like trying to measure that past patients and getting that re-engagement. Is that something you could speak to? Like, how are you looking for those population groups? How are you trying to re-engage them and bring them back to those digital experiences that they may have missed before or they dropped off?
Yeah, so speaking specifically around maybe like patient re-engagement campaigns, I think a lot of it depends on the business strategy. And one of the things that we really harp on from the media perspective is before we have campaign requests, support requests hit our desk, vetting the business strategy with the appropriate teams, and then what is the marketing strategy behind that? And so where do we have opportunity, demand, capacity? I think that's one of the biggest things, right? Is so often we talk about demand, but we don't often sit back and say, but do we have capacity? Right. And we deal with that every day. And a lot of that is the relationships back with the physicians to say, look, yes, I know you want a campaign, for this subspecialty or this kind of niche need, but at the end of the day, your beds are full. You've got people waiting 3 to 6 months. Like, we don't have the capacity to take on any more demand. And so to close the loop on that, we've got to make sure that the business strategy drives the marketing strategy, which then the marketing strategy is ultimately going to drive any tactical recommendations. And so in terms of re-engagement, one of the first things that we obviously have to look at is consent, right? So when we have a lapsed patient, anyone who hasn't had an encounter in the last 3 years, do we have the consent to communicate with them? And then from there, there are subsets of patient populations that, that we retain that ability, and then looking at, okay, well, what's the highest priority for the patient first and foremost? And I think that's ultimately what's most important is how do we be more patient-centric than brand-centric in those instances to say, at the end of the day, we need to get them in, period. And so oftentimes we would start with primary care, and then primary care then manifests, okay, well, hey, to catch you up, we need to take an updated A1C reading, or, we need to get you in for a mammo or a colonoscopy or whatever those ancillary services that Adrienne talked about are. Obviously, a lot of times through the front door, you're going to drive those downstream encounters. And so again, it goes back to communication preferences, and there may be triggers, whether it's, pre-privacy mandates, you might look for some sort of digital interaction that they have with you to kind of re-engage them from a care perspective. For us nowadays, it's a little bit more downstream. At HCA Healthcare, we've got a number of urgent cares, freestanding ERs, main ERs. We've got a consultant nurse line. So we're looking at those other touch points to potentially get them re-engaged with their care, and doing so through intelligent kind of drip campaigns, nurturing through marketing automation. Some of that may be driven through web personalization, which ever since we moved over to Sitecore, we're actively pursuing more site personalization. So.
How do you keep up with so many, both of you, this question for both of you, how do you keep up with so many providers, service lines, locations? Are you guys getting capacity data fed into you, or it's like quarterly sprints and we know cardio needs? How do you guys keep up with all of that? That's incredible. I mean, there's so many service line I don't know the health system game as well as
Yeah, I mean,
as most.
so we've got a lot of really talented marketers across our divisions. So, each division is supported by a division vice president of marketing who's really responsible for kind of surfacing those high priority opportunities. We've got PPR teams that are leveraging provider relationships. We recently implemented through the consolidation of two roles, a dedicated marketing services partner. So we have actively put together those resources that are meant to build the relationship with the divisions, the physicians, the operators, the senior leadership teams, to really use them as that pipeline to drive strategic marketing plans. And then it's in that process that we surface the highest priority, highest value opportunities that, again, are ultimately going to be best for the patient and ultimately, drive business growth.
Yeah, I love it. Adrienne, something similar at Hackensack?
Yeah, they're very similar in terms of, we have a fantastic marketing department who knows their physicians and knows those offices. We have that the consumer analytics team that I talked about. We have the patient access center. So we have a lot of ways that we know, it's because patients are very quick to tell you if they can get anybody on the phone that, hey, I called this number 5 times and put on hold and no one answered, or the appointment's 6 months away, things like that. So the information is there in one of those teams. And then it's ensuring that, as Andrew said, there's a communication wheel so that everyone can get that communication. So, and we read a lot of forms too from patients that need, we have people that couldn't get through on a phone. So they're literally filling out a form so that they can get to someone. And then what we do is go to that physician office and say, are you really booked? Or is it just that there aren't enough people answering the phone? And if there aren't enough people answering the phone, then talk to our patient access center. Let them answer the phone so that the patients can get to the provider, because we all want the patient to get to the provider. I think that's something that everybody can agree on in healthcare. So.
And they need to stop complaining about not getting enough leads when no one's picking up.
Right. Adrienne, are you working with the contact center to get insights like that? Or are you working directly one-on-one with the physicians? Or can you speak a little bit about how, we talked about re-engagement and getting those insights to build journeys. Are there other ways beyond the CRM, the call center? How are you kind of where are you tapping across what you have access to kind of figure out new ways to reach patients?
Yeah, I think that those are a couple of the key areas, with our marketing team as well. The other areas are the emergency department and the urgent care departments and things where, we know that consumers with primary care providers are healthier. It's just a fact. So any way that we can get those consumers that have come to our hospital, either sometimes, through the emergency department or show up at our urgent care, getting them engaged with an PCP, whether or not that's a virtual PCP or an in-person, is our first and foremost opportunity after taking care of that immediate care. And that's a big way that we engage. And then getting them in the system of getting them information, getting them patient resources about things that their screenings, all of that information. But once we capture them, it's meeting them where they are, again, whether or not that's direct mail, an email, things like that.
Great. So let's talk about, you both work at very big health systems, and I know, Andrew, you're moving more into the brand role, talking about maintaining that consistent experience across these different physician groups, across different service lines. How are you kind of just navigating and managing that to ensure that it meets the caliber that you want to uphold for the organization?
Yeah, so one of the big focuses for us in being a heavily acute care provider is we see a lot of that downstream activity coming through physician referrals. And so it's we spend a lot of time talking about patients and consumers, but equal weight, if not more weight, gets put into that physician relationship and understanding what they're looking for for a referring health system, right? And how do they make decisions? Is it access related? Is it quality related? So again, leaning into those physician audiences to better understand their needs, their perceptions of us, adapting, our marketing strategies accordingly. And then I think most importantly is looking then at that brand promise. And then do we deliver on that in terms of quality and experience? And we talk daily about that, right? Who do we want to be? Who do we want others to know us as? And then ultimately, operationally, are we built to sustain and deliver on that brand promise? And so those are just active conversations that we're always, trying to chip away at. Again, when you grow through, merger and acquisitions. Oftentimes you've got heavy integration periods and you're really working with disparate systems, different teams, disparate strategies, and really continually trying to build on and find scale and efficiency and things like that.
Adrienne.
Very good. Man,
Yeah.
it's hard to do. Y'all scale. Incredible. Yeah, Adrienne.
I was going to say, and Andrew just brought up a great point about the physician audiences. And I think that I've learned recently, and it's probably been going on, and I just heard, was a part of these conversations in terms of our executive leadership going out, especially our surgeons. If they are surgeons that split their time between a couple of hospitals, why? What is that hospital offering that ours isn't? What can we do better, especially from a quality standpoint, but also just the physician satisfaction of how things run? Like, is it that you can't get a room on Monday mornings? What is causing you to not be here more? What can we do to, make you more comfortable at this hospital so you want to bring patients here? And same thing with referrals from primary care. If they're not referring to physicians that, would be an easy referral in a marketer's mind, it looks to us like y'all are in the same location, same building. Why isn't this happening? Figuring out what that is and then helping to be part of the conversation. So I think that sometimes marketing and digital marketing, we're not always in the seats of those people talking about it, when sometimes we can help with the resolution in that communication and getting those channels to open up. So that's kind of pushing ourselves in there to be a part of those, I think, is important.
Asking the patient, listening, understanding, and making that there's data and tech can do so many great things, but if you're not having these conversations and listening, like, there's so many opportunities that we're just missing if you're not open to listening to them.
Listening to the providers too. I think this is
Listening to the
cool. It got me
providers.
thinking, like, yeah, a big theme. I mean, not a big thing. It's not an important thing, but we really got to change the title from heads of marketing, VPs of marketing. We're in charge of so much. You guys are in charge of so much, making sure we're connecting with the providers, the patients, the rest of the C-suite, driving growth, supporting talent acquisition is incredible. And Adrienne made a good point. You got to force yourself into the business conversation and say, guys, like, y'all haven't historically thought that marketing support the liaison stuff, but I promise we run the right marketing and advertising at that 30,000 foot level, that provider is going to pick up the phone or bring that liaison into their office and chat a little bit more when they come in. So I think that's really cool. Got to force yourself into the business conversation. Andrew, what's all this stuff I hear about HCA Health One? What is this?
So HCA Health One is the newest kind of rebrand in our Denver market, formerly Health One. Again, we talk about scale, we talk about opportunities for efficiency. Some of that starts with larger brand strategy. And so again, actively looking across our network to find more scalable brand strategy that will then yield more scalable marketing strategies. We again, with 15 divisions, 20 states, operationally have aligned, those divisions into groups looking for opportunities. If we've got 10 groups or 10 divisions focused on cardiology and 7 focused on orthopedics, well, there's scale immediately, right? And so HCA Health One is the fourth HCA or fourth brand to carry the HCA name. It started with about the same time in 2018, we launched HCA Houston Healthcare, and then we launched the HCA Healthcare corporate brand, formerly was just HCA, Hospital Corporation of America. And then in a couple of years ago, we launched HCA Florida Healthcare and now HCA Health One. So again, looking at more opportunities to present ourselves as a connected network to patients, right? So often in specialty care, you've got physicians, you've got locations that we may offer a service that is only one of 2 in the entire country. And so connecting that network, so when people walk in our door, and they're dealing with something that's so acute that it might require them to travel to Florida or Kansas City or Las Vegas for care, they understand that they're staying within that same network, that they're getting the same quality of care that they would expect in any of our facilities. In addition to that, looking at just general talent acquisition and retention, we did very, very thorough research into this kind of nurse epidemic this issue with all of our shortages of talent and staff, both providers and nurses. And what we uncovered is we had nurses leaving specific facilities and sacrificing great benefits and tuition reimbursement and we offer low, no cost, continuous education. Since our acquisition of Galen College of Nursing, we had nurses sacrificing those things to leave a facility, not knowing they could go to one of our other facilities and retain those benefits, right? The recall or the knowledge of working within HCA healthcare, even within our walls, was low and a challenge. And so, again, the launch of HCA Health One is really focused again on our relationship with our providers and our relationship with our staff. And making sure that, again, we're communicating inwardly the value prop of HCA healthcare.
Yeah. I love that. And something Andrew's not mentioning, by the way, great episode we had on Ignite where he talks about the nursing campaign to recruit more nurses. And he said, the first thing we did before we launched the nursing campaign is we took the nursing campaign to the nurses. We said,
we
actually
said, does
uphold
this sound right? Does this accurately,
like, no,
accurately represent
not
you?
really.
They were like, no.
And what they say, yeah.
Yeah, they were like, no, that doesn't sound like us at all. We were like, okay, back to the drawing board.
I love that, guys. Like, focus group before you launch your bullshit marketing thing. Go talk to the people that it affects. Hey, guys, hold on. 10 minutes and we got Q&A. Do we have Q&A lined up? All right, well, we should get to it. Is there anything you want to ask before we get to the Q&A? Do you want a Q?
Yeah, we have a Q&A. I've been seeing the questions pop up and come in here.
All right, cool.
I think there's 2 points. So we're talking about the tech stack and how are we actually building a brand that people want to engage in? Like, you can have it being a seamless patient journey that maybe it's very convenient, it's easy, but how do you actually engage consumers in a way that's meaningful, that makes them want to trust you, to turn to you first? That's something we can speak to a little bit. Adrienne, do you want to take that to start?
Sure. I think that a couple ways. One, you can be sure that you're meeting them where they're at. I mean, that's something that we can do as marketers, whether or not they want to click, call, text, web, making sure that we're engaging them the way they want to be engaged. But then also, and this goes back to what Andrew just talked about, part of their engagement will be from the people they're interacting with. It can be the best marketing campaign ever, but if they walk into that office and they don't, the front desk doesn't know they're coming, they don't know what they're there for, the physician is 2 hours late. It wouldn't happen at Hackensack or HCA, I'm sure, but you know what I mean. Then the marketing was for nothing, like, because their engagement wasn't there, and what their expectations of what they get when they got in the office based on what we're telling them we offer, we have to deliver on that.
The bad reviews we always see when we're auditing prospective client stuff, it's never about the provider. It's always the front office or the office, the parking, the insurance,
the wait,
the receptionist, the wait. It's always that stuff. And it's like, it's got to infuriate you guys. And they're like, you ruined it.
But it's also, yeah, as a healthcare system, I mean, happy front desk folks will make happy patients, and happy patients make happy physicians. It's all, taking care of.
Totally, because you're absolutely right, Adrienne. If you think about it, when you're going in for your cardiology appointment, you're scared. You're scared. Like, best case scenario, my heart is fine and I stay on my meds. Worst case scenario, I need heart surgery. Same thing, orthopedics, any of your serious mammos, like, could be the worst, so let's get to the cues.
Okay, great. About a refresh.
This is fun.
I did want to hear Andrew's doing some really fun things with brand engagement, I know, at HCA.
Yeah, so I mean, to Adrienne's point, in terms of how does brand present itself in the care setting, we conducted a full-on brand summit in Denver where we brought all leaders of people, nurses, administration, everyone, and we conducted this full-on brand experience to help kind of impress on them the role that they play in delivering that brand promise. And I think that was something that was immensely impactful. Our leaders said, you may think that, okay, what does a successful rebrand look like? Well, it's growth in EBITDA, it's higher volumes, it's better market share, it's maybe reduced cost and efficiencies from leveraging scale. But the reality was, what they cared about most was, how do our nurses, how do our physicians, how do our colleagues feel, post 10/1 when we launch the brand? And if we can win within, then that's going to permeate everything else that we do. And so from a brand experience and an adoption perspective, it really was an inward out approach, knowing that if to Adrienne's point, if their experience is positive, it helps alleviate concerns downstream when it comes to care delivery, quality outcomes, things like that.
That's why Walmart has a greeter, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want a happy experience as soon as you walk in. You're like, oh, I love this place. I love this place.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We were actually talking about this morning, when you think about star reviews and the impact that has on, on consumer decision making, like I would encourage everyone, go to Amazon, right? Look at the reviews. How many of those reviews are because the delivery was delayed or the package had a tear in it, or, it's nothing about the quality of the product itself. It's all about everything surrounding the product. I think that's a fascinating psychology right there alone.
Yeah, except for the book that I wrote on medical marketing like 10 years ago. That actually has terrible reviews for the contents itself.
We'll see what we can do about that.
Just learn to let other people speak and I don't write. And or we got the questions from the audience.
I think this tees up nicely to we have to work with the clinicians, we have to work the front office staff to deliver on this experience, but they're busy, they're stressed, and it's like, what have you guys done to kind of get them to communicate, work with you with their busy schedules? And I think, Adrienne, that's something with the online booking. I don't know if you had some experiences you can share that worked for you and trying to just get them to collaborate and work with you to make it happen if people are facing resistance.
Yeah, I mean, online scheduling is a great example of facing resistance. And we have physicians that don't want to go on online scheduling. And first it's listening to them of why they don't want to. Is that, and some of it is just not getting the right patients to the right physician, is that they think it's easier to talk to the patient and then get them scheduled and so forth. So one of the things that we've talked to them about is helping them understand of when patients want or have the ability to call and make these appointments. Well, first, a lot of them don't have time to call. They want to make these patients before they go to work, after they're home. And if we don't have staff answering the phone, they're going to get delayed care. And we want patient access and we don't want them to delay their care. So if we say and show them the data that 31% of consumers are trying to book online after 5 o'clock, that's huge. I mean, for them to just see in writing, like especially, and then new patients is that over half of those things. And if they want more patients and we want them to have more patients, then they have to open their schedules for us.
I love that. Use stats.
Yeah.
Listen, fancy provider, 30. I'm one of those, dude. I have to make an appointment for something and they called me back, left a voicemail, and they gave me a phone number to call.
Yeah.
Oh,
No one wants to do that.
I want us to question. I want to do
Yeah.
the second one.
Okay.
Go for it.
So to conclude, how do you guys think that AI is changing the patient journeys in the future, especially in terms of like personalizing care, improving communication? Do you see it as like a benefit or a challenge? Andrew, why don't you take that to start?
I was going to say, I think currently we see it as an unknown, right? And I think that, we have a slightly lower risk tolerance, as I think evidenced by our response to some of the consumer privacy regulation. We're actively looking at how we can leverage AI. I know we currently use, for example, notes in an exam room, right? Like testing and leveraging AI to detect what's being said, to document that, to chart that, to alleviate the administrative burden on nurses. We're looking at it inward from an operational perspective to determine where there are efficiencies in the way that we work, that we could be leveraging AI to be more lean, to be quicker to market, what have you, whether that's in creative strategies or tactical strategies. So I think it's still a bit of an unknown, but it's actively being pursued across, digital care transformation. It's being pursued across marketing, IT. I think I joked at one point with Alex, like I was using it to transform a terribly formatted report from a vendor, right? Where, little things like that I don't think we really stopped to think. And it's like, well, I'm going to save myself 2 hours of reformatting this report, and ChatGPT is going to do it for me. So I would say a bit of a non-answer, a bit of an unknown, but really looking at opportunities to enhance the way we deliver care. I think there are probably a lot of back-end opportunities to better understand our patients from a propensity modeling perspective. But all of that has to go through rigorous review for compliance, risk, privacy, things like that.
I think it's a good perspective, and it's probably in healthcare. It's probably going to be 10 years after every other industry.
Right.
That does some fancy things with AI. Adrienne, do you see how
We're actively using it. We're very conservatively, and if if our security or compliance says we're not using it, then we're not using it. But, working with our IT departments and compliance, we created a closed source chat. So like an AI generative chat where we can use it as our, and we turned all the other ones off as our health system so that we control the AI chat. So we feel good about, making sure our data is not out there, the information that we're putting in. We also use AI very much so in the marketing and digital areas. It's just first draft of things. Like never, we always say, like, you can't just put it in and get this nice physician profile, for example, but it allows us to move quicker through some of the content work that we need. And whether or not that's a marketing campaign, a website, or a provider profile, just the draft to get people started, we actively use that every day.
Multiplier. We'll see. I bet scaling up 3 end of next year, we're gonna have like a decent amount of use cases and marketing, or maybe new regulations. Something's gonna happen in the next year, I think.
There's been a lot of changes in the past year, and I can anticipate even next year will be even a new world.
Yeah, at least we're not just talking about HIPAA compliance like it was last year. This was
This
awesome.
is it. Yeah. Thank
Good
you
kicking
guys.
us off. This is good.
Thank you all.
Thank you for joining us. It's been a great session, and we're gonna kick this off and go to the AMA.
Adrienne, Andrew, thank you guys so much. It's so cool to hear how the
Thank you.
big shot marketers do it at huge systems across with huge impact and huge amount of pressure on you guys. So thank you. It is really cool to hear how
Thank you all
guys are
very
doing
much.
this. And
Thank you all.
connecting tons of patients with care. And I know you guys really value that. So super neat. Thank you guys. By the way, audience, they are extremely kind people. If you have more questions, which I know you will, Andrew and Adrienne will be, I think, happy to help. Go find them on LinkedIn. They love this stuff as much as we love this stuff. So it's in the name of helping patients. They will answer your question, I promise. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
See everybody in a few minutes.
Bye.
Bye, bye, bye,
Yo.
bye, bye.